Number one on my agenda, I'm asking for approval for property disposition. It's actually 1.78 acres in the Liberty District, and it's at 7th Avenue and 9th Street. There are a number of parcels of property there that makes up the 1.78 acres. 811, 813, 815, 817, 19, 21, 25, 827, 831, 835, 7th Avenue, and 618 9th Street. And so it'd be the corner of 7th Avenue and 9th Street. We've had interest expressed in purchasing that property by members of Sisters, Inc., or they're known as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and some of those members are here this morning, and I spell out that name and mention it because, for one, my wife is a member of that organization, although there is no conflict or in that regard, but we do have Miss Kia Chambers, Phyllis Jones, and Rochelle Jones here, and they are with that organization, but we are going through our normal process, and so what we're asking you to do is to declare it surplus, which would authorize us to advertise it in the newspaper for sale. We only sell property for fair market value, and we've determined the fair market value of that property, and they will have to compete along with anyone else, obviously, who would be interested in that property. So I'm asking.
All right, we've got a motion. We can have discussion. We've got a motion. Is there a second? Okay, there's a second, and we've got Councilor Thomas with discussion.
Mr. City Manager, I've been asked a couple of questions about this, and so I want to do this because of that. Would you or Ms. Johnson talk to me about the procedure for declaring surplus, and then secondly determining the fair market value? What do we go through to do that?
Sure.
And then once those are done, you mentioned that this would be advertised in the paper. Would you give us a little bit more about the procedure for people
Sure.
other than this entity that might be interested in that property?
Sure.
Okay, so first, when someone contacts us about a property that they see that the city owns, they'll contact me usually, and then I'll send out an email.
And tell us which department that is, just for the public's
The
information.
Community Reinvestment Department. They'll contact me directly, and they'll ask if the city is interested in selling that parcel. We don't have any for sale signs or anything out on at any properties that we own. They kind of look in the tax record to determine whether or not we own a parcel. And if it's not being utilized, that's when they'll contact us to see if we may want to sell it. At that time, I usually send an email to other departments just asking if they have any, if they are for it or against it, or if they see any problems with trying to dispose of the property. At that time, if everybody seems on board, I ask the applicant, we have applications, I ask the applicant to fill the application out and submit it back to me. In that application, it pretty much will ask, what they're planning on doing with the property, how long it's going to take to develop it, if they have the money to develop the property, so on and so forth. When that application is turned back into me, I will also forward that application to other departments to let them review. If at that time we decide that we do want to surplus the property, we'll get the property appraised. So that's how we determine fair market value. We've had all these parcels appraised already, and they came back at the 58.2. Then at that time, we'll come to council and we'll ask council's approval to surplus. If council agrees to surplus the property, we have to publish it in the paper 2 consecutive weeks. So like if today it's approved, we'll go into the ledger, we'll have it published like next Monday and then the following Monday. So that'll give anybody in the city the opportunity to bid. We have a date and time for when those bids are due. So if, I'll say the 23rd, the bids are due back to my department. At that time, we have a bid opening, so we'll actually go and meet, and if there are applicants there in the office wanting to see the bids, we'll open them right there publicly. At that time, we select who the winning bid is, and usually we'll go with the highest bid. But we also may look at what type of development they put out there or how long it's going to take them to develop it and so on to determine.
When you do the appraisal, do you just get one appraisal or is it multiple?
We usually just get one. We have two appraisal companies on contract, but because it costs about $750 for an appraisal, depending on the type, we usually only get one, unless we see that it might, if we feel like the properties might be undervalued or overvalued, we may get a second opinion. But if we think, that it's pretty much fair, then we'll just use that one appraisal.
All right, we have, next, Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, I know that we've been working and talking about the Liberty District for a long, long time. We've taken a lot of steps. We've done a lot of things, hopefully to encourage economic development in that area and do something really, really fantastic. My first question, I've got a couple questions here. My first question is, I know we, at one time, we've made decisions to accumulate a lot of property in the area, so I'm not sure. My first question would be for this, it looks like almost a half a block, if not a half a block, what was the city's original investment in this property? Does anybody know that?
Well, this property was bought, I don't know if we know what we paid for it, but it was bought back in 1998. In fact, it was bought through the Housing Authority. At one point, years ago, the Housing Authority handled CDBG for us. We didn't do it internally. And so it was bought when the Housing Authority handled CDBG. And then when the city came in and took control of CDBG, of course, all of that property came with it. And so it would have been bought by the Housing Authority and then came to us through that method.
Do we have any idea how we can find out what that number is?
We can certainly check to see, but it's we can certainly do that. But we appraise the property, and we only sell for no less than fair market value.
And
So
that's appropriate. I'm not arguing that point. I'm just trying to figure out what the city originally invested as far as the taxpayer dollars.
we can certainly go
land.
back and look and share that with you.
Okay. The second thing is the question comes up. I know I guess the way I perceive is and how it's come to me, and granted, I just have the information that's in front of me. It looks like there's been a request to move forward with some type of interest of development. But as I've listened to a lot of the conversation, I thought it was the intent to kind of come into this area and do a master plan and to look at a overall development plan for this area. And I guess I'm asking that question around. Certainly this land would fit into that master plan, but we're ready to take a step forward without doing any planning in that area. Is that, does that concern you any about not doing this master plan in the area?
Well, let me just say, we have a master plan that dates back to 2000. This proposed activity fits into that 5th and 6th Street redevelopment plan. It completely fits in. Now, we are in the process, at least I'm in the process of moving a process forward to relook at the old master plan to determine if we just need to tweak that master plan or if we need to go out and start anew and come back with a completely new master plan. But certainly, I would not let that interfere with someone who has an interest in the Liberty District. It has been sitting there for more than 20 years with no activity. And this is an activity, of course, we had the opportunity for an activity that didn't develop. And that was through the Housing Authority. They were going to spend $33 million down there. And they were going to put in, amphitheater and pocket parks and sidewalks, and it just didn't happen. And I think we know why it didn't happen. And so we moved on to something else, City Village, and it's been sitting there. And here is an organization that has expressed an interest, and it fits in with the 2000 master plan, and we're simply ready to start some activity in the Liberty District. This is an opportunity.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned all that, because that's really why I'm asking the question,
Sure.
is because I know there was a considerable effort to develop this area and to do it. I mean, it went to considerable lengths of conversation about the value of this land, the value of this area, and exactly what needed to be done. And then most recently, I've heard the conversations about continuing to do a master plan. So I ask that in the spirit of, I know there's an interest here, but, are we moving at a quicker pace before we get that master plan in place?
Well, if it did not fit in and if it was an odd fit, I wouldn't be recommending to you that we sell this property. But what has been proposed is a fit as we go back and look at the 5th and 6th Avenue redevelopment plan, and we say that in this report to you. And so what we're doing here in this report to you, we've gone a step further. I asked the staff, we put in this document that if they don't do the activity within 18 months, we have a right to come back and purchase this property back. And I use with staff at 6th and 8th, the shell of a building that's been there for 17 years. We sold that property, and it's been there 17 years. And I've got them looking into how we can get that property back. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so when we start bringing property in the Liberty District forward to you, we're going to put some stipulations in place, and we have it in here.
Okay.
18 months.
And that's really why I'm having this conversation with you. The one thing that I would, as a council representative, I would just hope that the city and the taxpayers get reimbursed for their investment in this area.
Well, no doubt, and that's why we only sell for no less than fair market value.
Okay. All right, let's see, we've got a few lined up. We've got Counselor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess what concerns me, somebody asked me about this property, about this transaction, and they asked me how many appraisals we normally get, and I said, my understanding is we get 3. So, and that was just what I was recalling from my tenure here. And when I heard just one appraisal now, that begs the question, when was that appraisal done, and why would we not go forward with 2? I mean, I understand you said $700 or so, roughly the cost, but it seems to me that this is public's property and we're putting it up to sale. We ought to be sure that we're fair, and we ought to do more than one appraisal, in my opinion.
Well, and let me just say this, and of course, I've been city manager for 12 years. I've only gotten more than one appraisal on one piece of property that I'm aware of. And we've sold, and you've declared surplus a lot of property in my 12 years. That was on Golden Park. Obviously, it appears every time we get ready to do something with the Liberty District, there's a whole lot of interest coming from somewhere. And I want to see something happen in the Liberty District in our lifetime. And at this rate, we're not going to get that done. And so of all of the property that you've declared surplus in my 12 years, we've never had this kind of discussion. And we've never been asked for 3 appraisals. But if you want 3 appraisals, we'll get it. But it is time for us to move the Liberty District forward. We've spent $37 million on flood abatement. We had $5 million that we used to acquire and dispose of property. We've done the Liberty Gardens, the Slave Cemetery. We've done the Mulroney House. We've done, it's a tax allocation district. We've done everything that we know to do to prep the Liberty District for redevelopment. And every time we come forward with something that, to move it forward, out of nowhere, there's movement. There's something going on. I don't know what it is, but if we want 3 appraisals, we'll get 3. We'll do whatever we need to do, but it is time to move the Liberty District forward. We left the $33 million on the table, and we went on about our business to City Village. We are trying to come back to the Liberty District to get movement. I'd like to see it in my lifetime. And at this rate, I ride through there every single day, and it's sad. It's sad. And so it's time to do something.
Mayor, there's nothing going on with me. I just, this is a transaction of public property, and I applaud the organizations that want to do something with the property. That's fine with me, but still, at the end of the day,
Yep.
It's public property, and in order to us, council, to feel comfortable, we ought to have at least two appraisals.
I understand it. And if we want to do that going forward, I'll do 3. My only point is, I've brought, over the 12 years, in recent weeks, we've declared property surplus. We had 1 appraisal. The only time that I'm aware that we did 3 is when there was an interested party in purchasing Golden Park. Otherwise, we've done 1.
Well, I don't want to be redundant, but what was the date of the appraisal?
I don't know exactly. It was about 2 weeks ago that I got it. Yeah, it's a recent appraisal.
How long would it take if we were to get at least 1 more?
It usually takes about 3 weeks,
About what?
about 3-week time
3
period to
weeks.
get another one. Mhm.
Would that cause an unusual delay in moving forward with this?
I don't think so. And so do you want 2 or 3?
Well, I would like to see at least 1 more, just to
Okay,
just to
and
have
so
it.
if that's
And
what-
and going forward, I would at least like to have 2.
Yeah, if that's the direction from council, in all future property disposal, we'll do 2 or 3. You tell me. That's what we'll do.
Thank you.
Let's see, we've got Counselor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, my question had nothing to do with the Liberty District. My question was, the questions that came to me were about the $58,000. Was that fair market value, and how did you arrive at that? It has nothing to do with the fact that it happens to be in the Liberty District. I don't have a problem with our doing what we need to do in the Liberty District. My question to Ms. Johnson is, was this property purchased with CDBG funds originally? And if so, then do we sell it? Is it restricted to CDBG uses?
It was purchased with CDBG funds. If we sell it at fair market value, it's not restricted to CDBG uses. The only time that it's restricted to CDBG uses is if we sell it below fair market value. So,
Which we are not going to do, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
And can I just say one thing, too? When we put the bids out, what we put in there as fair market value is the minimum bid. So if somebody bids, they can bid more. So if there is competition, they may come in at 58, somebody may come in at 60. It just really depends on how bad they want that property.
Okay, we've got Counselor Huff.
On the rumblings coming from, Councilor Woodson mentioned within the last month that hopefully we would get together and with whatever proposals that we have, that we would meet and talk among ourselves, among the public, the stakeholders about a plan. So how this project fits into the overall plan. There's been no meeting about a plan, but that's where the rumblings are coming from. The other part is,
Well,
there's
and I
not-
guess I'm trying to get to the party
What's
where,
that?
where, I haven't gotten.
No,
any
no,
rumblings.
not a party. I just got about probably 10 phone calls about when are we going to meet and whether we're going to go with if this project is part of being added to the 2003 master plan, are we coming up with a new master plan and we're adding this project? How does this project equate to the Liberty Theater as far as it being the event center? Are they going to work together? Are they going to work separately? There's just been no discussion. It's not anything against the plan. It's just there's been no discussion on how it fits into what's going on. And the other piece, if you did, I was out for a minute, so I apologize if you've done it already. But the other question was if you could just walk through the steps of when it's declared surplus, the steps. Did you go through that already?
She just did.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. That was one of the biggest questions. They wanted to understand surplus and the procedures and the process and,
If you were to declare the property surplus today, we'd most likely put it in the paper, the first ad, probably next week or the following week. Then we would run it one more time that following week. So it runs in the paper 2 times. And then in the publication, it'll specify a time and date that they have to have the bids back to me. So I may say like 3 p.m. on April 12th. And then they would have to have the bids to me on that date, and we would open the bids publicly
so
during
it's
that
an
time.
open bidding process?
Yes.
Okay. But due to AKAs and Sisters Inc., no problem with that. We're just trying to figure out, are we going in and they are going to do their project and then the next person is going to come do a project, or are we going to put a plan together? That's what the rumblings are about. Thank you.
All right, we have, the Mayor Pro Tem is next.
I want to thank the AKAs for being the first to step forward to do something in the Liberty District. We've been trying for a long time. I've been there since day one working. We had a plan, and even with a master plan, it doesn't say you have to put a grocery store here, a house here. It's the whole district concept, and this most definitely fits into the whole district concept for the Liberty District. And I hope whatever we do today that they can go forward with it, because it's time for somebody to do something. And as my mama would say, get up off here, do nothing and do it.
Next, we have Counselor Woodson.
Thank you. I've been waiting so patiently and frustrated. I tend to agree with Isaiah this time. And we've had respectfully disagree many times, but I'm agreeing with him now. And Councilor Huff, I understand what you're saying because I've been contacting some of those rumbling people the minute we got City Village. And I did tell some of them, you need to get on the JOB. We're going to work more on the City Village than we are on the Liberty Theater if you don't get on the JOB. You need a champion. You need that champion to come forward. The Liberty Theater area has lost a lot of opportunities because nobody has become the champion. And when I say being a champion, I mean like in City Village, uptown, they bring a plan, they stand before us, they tell us this is what they have. He has these people here and they're going to go for it and not. I've even talked to some of the radio stations and said, instead of you doing that event over there and over there and over there, why don't you do it in the Liberty Theater? But they go other places. Somebody got to start it. And if this organization's going to start making a move and taking actions, then we need to. I'm the representative of that district, and I can tell you I'm frustrated because I knew City Village will stand here. I knew all these other tads will stand here, and they'll get what they want. And if the stakeholders of the Liberty Theater don't get on the JOB, there's not going to be any money left. There's not going to be anything there. So I'm in agreement, and I've always gone with some stakeholder side all the time. But, you know, we got to start taking actions now, because if you don't take actions, it's never going to get developed, and then we're going to say the city don't care about that community. There are a lot of influential people here, financially established, that can make a difference. They make a difference all over the city. They talk about what doesn't happen in the Liberty Theater. And I might get yelled at, I might get phone calls, I might get cussed out, but it's time. It's time to take action. And if you have a group that's willing to take action, you got my support 100%, because I want to see it move. I'm like Isaiah, in my lifetime, I want to see the Liberty Theater be. We had a plan in place. Nobody put it to work. Nobody championed it. Nobody. We're talking about going back and look at it if it fits. It doesn't fit in today's society, not with the new young folks in technology. Isaiah said it in this cell here, and I said, yeah, we need to. I still haven't heard from those stakeholders to get on Isaiah. So when we're going to have this meeting? And a lot of those stakeholders, they know how to get a hold of me, because when they want something, they've gotten a hold of me before. And so I'm frustrated. You know, anything to do, and Gary, with all due respect, I love you, you're my buddy. I say sometimes you're my husband. But this time I do not agree with you, because we've only did bits for one on everything. If going forward, let's go for it. I understand the taxpayer thing. What more than anything, I pay taxes too. Like someone lady said to me, you don't pay taxes. Excuse me, yes I do. You know, it's time to move this forward. And it's true, every time we come to the Liberty Theater, there's always something that stops some kind of development. And we need to stop. And I know I probably make a bunch of people mad, but you got to call it out, and you got to call it. You're saying you want it, but what are you doing? You're not stepping up here. You're not conducting. These other people that did the City Village and Victory Overlay and all that, they did it on their own. And then they came out to us and said, this is what we want. And that's what needs to happen. And so I'm going to stop my little talk here, because my blood pressure is going up. Right. But no, we need to move it. And Gary, I'm sorry. I'm going to vote against the motion because I think they already did the RFP. It already came back. Let's move with it. Now, in the future, you know, this council wants 2 or 3 appraisals. But I want this to be treated just like everything else, because I want this to move. And I'm pretty sure that when these ladies came up, or this organization came up with this idea, I'm pretty sure they looked at the Liberty plan, and I'm pretty sure they want the best, because I'm pretty sure a lot of them grew up in this area and went to school there. And that's it, Mayor.
All right. We got a lot of folks. We're going to keep on going. Mr. City Manager, so that I'm clear, I don't know that there's a formal motion, but there may well be, and as soon as we get some more discussion, we'll go back to Councilor Allen. But these appraisals, these are people on an approved appraisal list, is that right? So you didn't just go out and find somebody?
That's right.
Okay, these are the people
Yes.
we use that know about municipal property. Okay,
Right.
all right. And this
and
one
if
was
the
pulled from that
appraisal,
list.
if we felt it was out of line, out of whack, like we did Golden Park, we would go and get a second appraisal.
Okay.
But there's no reason to believe this one. But Golden Park, you know, I can tell you, I think I had even told council that it was $6.3 million or something, and then it came in less than half of that. Well, that's a problem. And, you know, and so there was a need and a reason. But on something like this, where, I mean, there's no reason, but if going forward in the future, you always want us, because we're trying to not spend money on something we don't need, but if going forward we want 2 or 3, if that's the policy, then we'll do it. Just know that we're paying 2 or 3 appraisals to do the same thing. And then what we'll end up doing is averaging them to say, okay, we'll add them up and divide them by 3, and we got an average. I mean, if that's what we want to do, or we can just take the highest, or I don't know. But typically when there's a reason, we would go for a second.
Okay. All right, let's keep on going with discussion. We have Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, and keep in mind, I don't think there's anything wrong with the council doing due diligence and asking questions. I think that's what I understand's happening here. We do it on a regular basis, and we're doing, in my opinion, that's our responsibility in doing our job. I don't think that anything that's been said around here is delaying the matter by any means, or saying, or putting up a red flag and saying no. I just want to caution council that this is a process. It's a public process, and to start predetermining matters of development, I think is outside the realms of the process that we go by. And certainly I see several more steps in this. Am I right, Mr. City Manager?
Well, I think she's outlined from here where we go,
Okay.
yes.
All right, well, thank you. So I do want to say that. Everything has to go according to the requirements, and may, the way I look at it, may the best man win at the end of the day. I would ask you, though, earlier, you mentioned something about the housing authority purchased the property, but then I thought I just heard it was purchased with community block grant money.
Well, they administered the CDBG program since I've been in the city manager's office. It was done over at the Housing Authority. What she's doing was housed and managed out of the Housing Authority of Columbus, Georgia. And
When
they
all
bought,
originally purchased, but it's not today.
that's correct.
Okay.
And so when it was transferred over to the city, all of that came with it.
Okay. Could you do me a favor and just find out the city's investment in this property originally and just send it to me, just forward it to me? Thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Baker?
Thank you. I don't really have a problem with what's been proposed at all, but it would be nice if you would, as this goes forward and other projects come forward, if you would let us know. I'm not sure how the corporate structure of this particular group is set up, or how the event center will be set up, but it looks like it might be a nonprofit motive, and it could be that it will not go on the digest and generate property taxes. And that's fine. It may bring services to that area, and that may outweigh the need for property tax revenue, and that's fine. But going forward, it would just be nice for us to know, as we map out that area, what is going back on the digest and what is not, just so we'll have an understanding of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Hull?
My AKA Sister Inc., I want to make something very clear this morning. I'm not against anything you're doing. You all, I'm sure, took time to plan and meet and talk about what you wanted to do. This is all I'm talking about up here. I feel like some of us as council people or stakeholders, whatever you want to call it, should have had an idea of what was going on based on what Councilor Baker just stated. It's a TAD district now, tax allocated district, so everything that's nonprofit, you won't pay taxes. It already has its own benefits for 20 years. We only will receive tax money based on what has presently been paying taxes before we declared it a TAD. So there's just a lot of moving pieces. It's nothing against you as a group, nothing against your plan. But as you plan to put an event center in a certain location, I'm concerned, and I'm sure others, but I know I'm concerned on when you put your piece in, what else are we going to put in? There's been conversation this morning about missed opportunities and things. Some that they are considered missed because the money was on the table, but certain opportunities didn't fit that area. Because if we had taken advantage of the $33 million, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to be there. And we wanted more projects like yours and others to come in to diversify that area and to lift up the Liberty Theater. So when you leave today, I just want you to know my conversation is about, we need to know more about what's going on. I understand in planning, you have to talk about it from time to time. And there are a lot of moving pieces, and to meet with the city managers and others in order to know what you need to do, how to do it, and to get the process rolling. But in order not to have all of us bouncing around like this, it'd be nice for us to know that we could have had at least one meeting after you decided what you wanted to do, to say, okay, this piece of property we want to use, and then we can start talking to the city manager and others about what else we want to put in that area. Because we want it to be like Uptown. We want it to be a mixture. And my only question I had, since I read it, was, have you met with the people at the Liberty, and how will you all work together? Will it take events from them? An idea I had was, with the location and everything, how you all could market together. My voice is leaving. How you could market together, whereas they have maybe facility for up to 250, I guess, and then the theater, and then you would have, your facility would be a certain capacity, so that you could market together and keep the people coming to that particular area, which would boost the whole Liberty District. Thank you.
All right, let's see, we have Counselor Henderson.
Try to be very brief. Just quickly, from a process standpoint, Laura, up to now, we have obtained one appraisal unless you guys look at something and say that just doesn't look right. I'm sorry, I'm so soft-spoken. Ask my wife. My question was, from a process standpoint, have we typically up to now just done the one appraisal unless there seems to be some glaring issue with the appraisal we received?
Yeah, I mean, usually, we just I look at other appraisals that we've had just to kind of see what they're putting on there for like square footage, the amount per square footage.
Right.
For commercial, or,
Well,
if it looks, like it's comparable to some of the other stuff, then we think it's fair.
Well, and I applaud what Councilor Allen and Councilor Davis are discussing, because obviously we want to make sure that we're safeguarding the public. It's a public trust to be able to safeguard the money. The only thing I would caution, and I don't know that I'm that interested in additional appraisals, simply because if we did get 3, and if it was off by even 5%, which is a pretty good chunk from an appraisal standpoint, that's on a $50,000 piece of property, that's $2,500, and the appraisals would cost $2,100 if they're $700 a piece. So I think when you get to an amount down at this level where it's less than $100,000 or so, the odds of that being off significantly enough to really make an impact in recovering the cost of that appraisal, I don't know that's warranted. Plus, if it's not been done in the past, I don't see why we would do it now. I can see where we might want to initiate some kind of policy going forward. And this last one, and I'm not trying to muddy the waters even more, but we mentioned TAD. I just wanted to make it clear for the folks that are watching that any TAD request, any infrastructure project that is brought by an individual or an organization that would benefit them comes before this council as the TAD authorizing, I can't remember the name of us now. We have so many, some of them not nice either, but I just wanted to make it clear that if a nonprofit wanted to come and try to initiate some type of infrastructure, it's up to this council to determine whether or not there's really any validity to that request. And since it wouldn't really add to the tax rolls, chances are it wouldn't. I just wanted to throw that in, because I know when we talk about TADs, there's a lot of confusion and misinterpretation about what is available for those kind of requests and what is not. Thank you.
All right, and we have Counselor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make a motion that we do a rush appraisal as quickly as you can, and bring that back to council to expedite the process. Just one additional appraisal, just so we can feel comfortable with what we're doing. And in true clarity and transparency, the person that asked me about this was at lunch the other day, and he doesn't live in the area. It doesn't have anything to do, matter of fact, I didn't even know this parcel was in the Liberty District until I went and read the packet. I had not read the packet until when the person asked the question. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. It just concerns me going forward that when he brought it up, I thought we did 3. And then I asked the question, and we only did 1. So I think we ought to do more than 1 on all properties. So I would like to make that motion and, on this issue.
All right, that's a motion to ask the city manager to do another appraisal on the property that's the subject of our discussion. Is there a second? All right, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, Tiny?
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and opposed is 3.
Inconclusive.
And,
All right. Yes.
And Madam Mayor, and let me just say, well, you just voted, so I was going to say, I don't have a problem getting a second appraisal, and I don't think that would have anything to do with approving the motion to declare the property surplus today, because you're not voting on an amount. And
Well, that's next up, so why don't we get down to that? The motion on the table. I mean, the
Yes, okay,
action item.
sure.
All right, is there a motion to, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so flippant, I'm just trying to.
No, I understand.
Every chance
No
we
problem.
can, you
Yeah.
know. I want to have full discussion, but trying to move us forward, too. All right, so we've got property disposition of multiple lots at 7th Avenue and 9th Avenue. Is there a motion to approve this?
Yeah, we have it.
Oh, we do? Okay, and you got the second? Aren't you good? All right, all those in favor, oh, wait a minute, no, we're going to do electronic. All right, record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.